Maybe a video I'm going to do today to follow up on the video I made last night on the Rowmark material that we were cutting. Again, the goal yesterday was to play with depth of cuts, speeds, which bit was best and most appropriate for the engraving of a very small font. Not to do a finished product, not to do anything like that. So, but there's a couple of issues that I recognized as we started, and that was that I hadn't surfaced the spoilboard, so there was a chance that it was going to be not perpendicular to the spindle, so the engraving could be a different depth at different areas of the text, and that's fine. That was understood by me, but I don't want it to taint the video to you. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to show you how I was holding everything down, and we'll do it holding it down. I'm going to surface the material and then hold down the material a better way for a finished product, and we'll go from there. How about that? And this way of having painter's tape has painter's tape top and bottom, and it's nice because it pulls right up and you don't have anything left on your material. But when you only have one row of it in different areas, you could have some flexing. This certainly does flex when you apply pressure to it, and the bit applies pressure to it. So that was not the goal yesterday. It was just to play with some engraving techniques and see which one looked best and get appropriate speeds and things like that. So today I'll surface a little bit here, and we'll do a better engraving on these. You'll see on yesterday's videos and today's that the way I was holding this down was I was exerting pressure, side pressure, onto a piece of 3/4 MDF. And I've got it stop blocked at the bottom. I use this if I'm this jig if I'm using a full sheet of material. But obviously, what that will do is put pressure on both ends and have it hump up in the middle. And it's very easy to see. You know, just a finger touch, and we're moving it. Again, that's not a big difference. That's maybe 20, 30 thousandths. But that's also what we were seeing on our materials. So we want to ensure that this work surface is perpendicular to the spindle when we're doing things that we're only talking about 20 or 30 thousandths of an inch in difference in the material. So we want to make sure that the work surface is perpendicular to the spindle, and so to do that we have to start with the base. So we're going to surface this. You'll even see I have a screw hole area with a raised area. But we're going to surface this and then hold our materials down. I'm going to put more. I'm going to use the same hold down technique with the painter's tape and CA glue, but I'm going to put more around it, around the perimeter of it, so that it won't be standing up on a high ridge of the single CA glue that I had on the other one. And we'll go to town on this. So with that said, let me get this set up and we'll get it surfaced. Okay, so I loaded EJS partial pocket. Always check to make sure it's the right name here. It's easy to fat finger it. It does a quick drawing. Just takes a second for that to show up. Okay. I've zeroed the cutting bit off on the touch-off pad to set the tool length. I selected the corner, but not all the way into the corner of the material. I'm just going to do from that area. I'll pull this out of the way so we can see. I did a quick marking on the top. I just grabbed a Sharpie and did it, but this is a way to see if this was level or not first, if it was flat or not first, and I'm sure it's not. So I'm going to just hit start. It'll go to the reference corner, which I had about here, and I'm overcutting the width of the material that way and that way for what we're going to do. And again, I don't have the dust chute, the front dust chute on, but the shop vac is on. You see it gives pretty good pickup. I think my depth of cut is going to be enough that it's going to pick up both sides. All the way through the middle. Oh, I had a screw there. Nice. I did just put screws into it to hold it down flat. I may hit it again. Yeah, nice. Because of the flexing, since it's using a side pressure on the MDF, of course it would bow up. So I did put a screw there and one back here, but we're not going to come back this far. And again, our materials that we send it out with are these panels, and so you can replace these with indoor-outdoor materials. You could do a high-pressure plastic if you wanted to. I've heard one of my customers is talking about taking one of these off so that he can do true dovetails on the machine, and he can set up a jig to stop the height of the several drawer boxes at the same time, bring them up from the bottom, hit this jig, clamp them all together, and then use a dovetail bit on it and have a true dovetail done on the CNC. Again, the SmartBench is a machine that lets you decide how you need to configure it if you need to change it from the way we send it to you from the factory. And if we look, we can see that this is much less. Once it gets out of the way, it's just barely cutting on this edge, and the other side very small, and then here it's very deep. So that was the issue with it. The left-hand side being lower when we were looking at the material as it was held down in yesterday's video. Not a surprise to me at all. So we'll just clean it up with this, do it again, and have a finished cut. And again, I drew it oversized, over the size of the piece, because I don't care. I just want the whole thing surfaced in that area. I'm not going to go the whole length. I'm just going to basically do, I think I did 12 by 12 drawing area pocket to get it surfaced. We don't need the second pass. So I'm going to hit stop and cancel the job. The bit will come up. First pass did get everything. Once it finishes going all the way up, I'll move it by jogging it. And again, you'll be able to see the difference in the depth of cut here versus here. This edge, it's got a lip, there's no question about it, 1/16 or so. And this one is probably 3/16, maybe an eighth, not quite an eighth. But that's what we were looking at. Shallower on this end, higher on this side on both of the squares that we had on there. So I'm going to wipe this down, blow this off, wipe it down, and reapply one of the 4x4 pieces that we had right there, and we'll re-engrave it. Okay, most of you have already seen this type of hold down technique, but if you haven't, I'll do a quick review. This is a CA glue and painter's tape method. By doing this, the painter's tape will come off of most products materials that you're going to put it on. So I put it on the table nice and flat. This is where the machine started to do the second pass, and I stopped it. So I don't want to be in this area because, again, you can see that's a 10,000th or so difference that it had started the cut before I interrupted it. So you put the painter's tape on nice and flat. I'm going to do a rectangle on each of these, and then activator on the back side of the material, and put this on. Hold it down for about 10 seconds. It'll be held just fine. During the video that I did yesterday, and most of them, I just do one row here, which obviously will let a flexible material like this pivot on that row a little bit. We're only talking thousandths, 10,000 or so of difference in the depth of cut of what was exhibited versus what's desired. So I'm going to do a rectangle here that will fit inside this, and then drop this down. Actually, I'll just reverse it. I'll do the rectangle on here and the activator here. So can't do that with one hand, so we'll do it, and then we'll drop it on there, and we'll move to the next step. Okay, so in the process of getting ready to touch off the tool, I wasn't watching and put the tool down too low, just barely. It's the 32nd inch tapered end mill bit, so that mark is on it before we start engraving. I just wasn't paying attention, and then moved the head, and it was already closer, much closer than I meant for it to be to the material. It shouldn't have been touching it, but it was. Lifted it up, put my tool touch off tool into it, under it, did the touch off, and off we go. Okay, I've selected the job. I think it's got a nice long file name, but it's not as long as when I look at it here. So it's EJS spoilboard profile. So I've already done the spoilboard. I'm using the profile on the vectors, on the letters and the numbers, with a 1/32 tapered end mill. So I'll load that job, tell it OK, and start it. Again, I've got the dust shoe off so that you can see. The line closest to the bottom is a 0.12 depth of cut. The line above that is going to be a 0.14. It's programmed at 100 inches per minute and one pass. Let me get the airline on it. So I'll just let it do the other one, and we'll just make this a little tedious video. No need to watch this. Again, if you're watching your machine work, you're probably doing it wrong. Let the machine do the work automatically while you're doing something else. Okay, we're poking into the paper, but it should go right through it. I don't know if it's showing up because of the colors. The painter's tape, not paper, the painter's tape had was not held down on that area, but it should go right through it. That's the beauty of doing it with this technique. I'm going to try to zoom in a second here. You can barely see, but let me get back to it. The bit, it has collected some material on it that has melted. So I'm going to pause it real quick. We don't want that. It may inhibit, so this is on the deeper cut, but it may inhibit the removal of the dust and the particulate matter that we want gone. A big part of this is we want the swarf to be gone so we can easily clean this up. I'm just going to leave this. I'll stop about there. So I paused it on the controller, and the bit has stopped. I'm going to reach in and clean that off. Sorry, I'm getting the dust hose out of the way. I'm going to zoom out so you can see what I'm doing. So not a particularly great thing to do. But I've got it cleaned off now, and I'll tell it to go. So this will be, I guess, after the 1/32. The text after that should be relatively clean with nothing stuck to the bit. Now you'll see that the colors went from blue to, oh, so there wasn't anything left. But the colors went from blue to white, meaning to indicate that the program has been paused. So typically these would be blue lights if everything was in regular run mode and automatic. So I'm going to change on the console and move the head away, move to faster speed. And we look at it. Let me grab the brush here. Let's see it. Same nylon bristle brush that we had yesterday. And we're done. It looks good, both of them. Consistent depth of cut, no issues, no worries. And that helps explain why it's important to use a spoil board that's surfaced. That brings it all perpendicular to the spindle. And when we're doing something like this, where 20 thousandths difference in depth of cut makes a difference in how clean it is coming through the material, that's important. So surfacing everything periodically, surfacing your material, that's why you want to have this done. So hopefully that explains everything. If you have any questions, contact us. Our information and contact information is in the links below or beside, depending on which format we're looking at. But call us. What we're here to do is answer questions and help you understand the processes. Thanks so much for watching.